just can live again. So fuck Bill Murray, cause it's one of those days that I wish I could rewind.
Hello, welcome. Another Saturday show with me and Mark. Thanks very much, Bones, for filling in last week. Did a great job. Not so much on my fantasy, thank you very much, but you filled in nicely. So, just a repeat of what we're here for. We'll go through the games that are on the Sky TV. Mark will give us some nice matchups there where we're looking at what he thinks the wins will be. We'll probably put some betting tips on. Normally the win and spread is what we'll go through. We'll have a look at some fantasy. Got a couple of questions from the group. Any questions that come through, we'll deal with. And then we'll touch on our fantasy 3 as we do. Give this weekend's picks. And then we'll go back to the first fixtures, the TV fixtures, and just pick one player from each one for fantasy, just for any of you guys might want to get some late picks up in there. So, Bones, if you could bring the picture up for us, that'd be great. Over to you, Mark. Bengals, Ravens.
Yeah, it's not a really good schedule this week, is it? We've been kind of spoiled by Sky. I don't watch a lot of the Sky games anyway, but I've found myself watching more this season because they've had some good games on there. I've got Game Pass, like many of us have, and I'll just watch the Raiders and whoever I fancy around that. But I'm looking at this schedule, I'm like, Jesus, at least the best game looks to be the first game, the 6 o'clock game, the Bengals, who have been surprising, haven't they, Tom? Against the Ravens.
Very much.
I'm excited. That looks like a good game on paper,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's the spread's 6.5 on it, so I don't think they're giving the Bengals much sort of respect there. I think that's based on what our pre-season sort of opinion was of them, but I think they're a lot closer than that, surprisingly. I'm looking forward to, like you say, it's probably the best of the meh fixtures that we've got. That's one I definitely, I would watch. What's your thoughts? What's the biggest matchup here? I know everyone will talk about Lamar and everyone will talk about the Chase and Burrows connection, but where do you think this is won and lost?
Right, okay, the Ravens have got some injuries on their offensive line. And the Bengals have signed a guy called Trey Hendrickson, who they took across from the Saints. Now, I've normally got a rule in life, and I say in free agency, don't pay another team's number 2 pass rusher like a number 1 pass rusher. Now, I must admit, the Bengals paid Trey Hendrickson quite handsomely. And I thought, I don't know if he's going to get the production in Cincinnati. Because for one, when he was on the Saints, he was opposite Cam Jordan, who was getting all the double teams. So as the number 2, he was getting lots of sacks. And I thought, he's going to go to the Bengals. He's being paid like a number 1, and he's going to have to play like a number 1. He's going to see more double teams and blocking. There's not going to be the amount of pass rush opportunities because the Bengals are a worse team than the Saints. And the Saints were playing with a lead a lot more than the Bengals would be. So this was all pre-season. I was thinking, it was a bit like Bud Dupree going to Tennessee. I thought, well, yeah, Bud Dupree's going to get good stats on the Steelers because they've got what? Opposite side of him. And now he's going to the Titans. Is he going to have the same kind of success? And he hasn't. But Trey Hendrickson has. This is an intriguing matchup. The Ravens have been without their starting left tackle, their all-pro left tackle, Stanley, for a bit now. He's been ruled out for the season now. Yeah. They did sign Villanueva in free agency, who's been a Pro Bowl left tackle himself, but he's on the back end of his, he's on the other side of 30 now, and his career's starting to come downhill. But he's listed as questionable as well. Yeah. So, this game, the matchup that really intrigues me is going to be that Cincy D line against that Ravens offensive line. Because we know what the Ravens want to do. They want to establish the run. They want to, they've led the league in the NFL for the last few years in on-the-ground yardage. Latavius Murray's injured this week. You know what I mean? So they're missing Latavius Murray. And this might be, is it going to be a Le'Veon Bell return? Is Taysom Williams going to get some carries? Ultimately, I think their number 1 running back's their quarterback. I think Lamar Jackson's their biggest threat on the ground. But yeah, I don't think that this is all cut and dry. And You know,
Yeah.
like I think it's going to be closer than you know, like than the 6.5 handicap. I can see there being a field goal in this, Tom.
Yeah. I agree. I think the 6.5. I think that's a shambles of a spread if we're fair. I mean, Lamar for me has been unbelievable so far this season, and he's playing like he's wanting to prove all the doubters wrong. I think was it 400 yards he had last week passing. You know, there's a lot of questions out there, but for me, starting to answer it, it will be interesting now, like you say, especially if Villanueva doesn't make it, how edgy and twitchy he's going to have to be looking at that left side. You can have that pocket presence when you've got a bit of trust on your left tackle, but when there's probably going to be someone in there that maybe he's never played with before, or someone that he's not too comfortable with, you've got a real worry there of where he's going to be. I imagine he'll be rolling out quite a lot, looking down the field, and like you say, he's clearly their biggest running threat, isn't he? So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think. I don't know. I really like the Ravens. I think they win. But you're right. I don't think this is a dead rubber. I think it could be close. Bengals are really shocking me, and I don't like to say it because I just thought they were going to be a banker again for another terrible season. But it's interesting how they're performing, and it'll be a good game to watch. What are you thinking there on the 6.5? Would you take Bengals on the 6.5?
Yeah, I think the Ravens are going to win it, but I think it's going to be closer than 6.5. So I'm going to back the Bengals with the handicap to win the game.
Yeah.
If I was backing anyone, I'm tempted just to stay clear of it. I do think that Sam Hubbard and I do think that Trey Hendrickson can cause Lamar Jackson enough that he's going to have to play off script. Yeah. And one of the reasons why I think he's going to be playing off script and running a little bit more and stretching the pocket is one of the reasons why I'm going to select Mark Andrews to have quite a big game in this game. He's going to want to go to his trusted receiver, the guy who he knows is going to be on the spot at the right time, especially when he's facing pressure and he's under duress. And in this offense, that's Mark Andrews, the tight end for the Baltimore Ravens. I think he can have a really good game this week. He came on, he had quite a slow start, but has come out the traps recently. He's playing really well. I'm not too enthused by, outside of Jesse Bates, what the Bengals have in their secondary. Yeah. They've got Eli Apple, who's been bounced around the league for a while. Yeah. The Ohio State corner, Eli Apple, who played for your boys.
We drafted him stupidly high.
Yeah. He's playing in one corner spot. They've got Chidobe Awuzie, who's on the other side. You know what I mean? No. Look, they've performed well. They've probably overperformed their ability. But I do think that they're going to have trouble with a matchup person like Mark Andrews. I think as the game progresses, we might see some big plays from Marquise Brown. I don't think he's going to be a 7 or 8 reception kind of receiver this game. But I do think he's going to be good for maybe 3 receptions. And obviously, when he gets a ball, he's that fast, he's that electric, he can take one to the house. Yeah. So if I've got him on my bench, I might slot him in thinking 3 grabs is enough because he can always turn one of them into 60 yards and a touchdown,
Yeah. You're talking 12, 14 points minimum, aren't you?
Yeah.
Right. Anything else you're thinking in that game?
I'm looking at the Bengals, opportunities and what the Bengals have got, what they might have in the way of fantasy. And I want to go Jamar Chase. But Marlon Humphrey's one of the best corners in this league, and I've got a feeling that Marlon Humphreys is going to be matching up and seeing a lot of Jamar Chase. Do you know who I kind of fancy in this one? Tyler Boyd. I like Tyler Boyd in the slate. War Eagle, thank you. Yes, I have got my Auburn Tigers. Thank you, War Eagle. That's for anybody who doesn't know. That's Auburn Tigers slogan and anthem. Yeah, I do fancy Tyler Boyd out the slot to have a little bit of something. I think if I was backing a Bengals player to have, if I was looking down the depth chart, I was thinking I'm playing daily fantasy or I'm playing fantasy and I want to slot somebody in for a cheaper cap hit, like where you've got the money on your lineup.
Yeah.
Tyler Boyd might be worth a decent look in this one. He's obviously he's a good safety blanket for Joe Burrow. I think you'll see a fair few amount of targets. And I'm a little bit I find it a little bit difficult this game to think who's going to get the outside yardage for the Bengals. Is it going to be Jamar Chase knowing he's going to be matched up against Humphrey? Or is it going to be T. Higgins who's coming back to fitness now? And ultimately, I think the higher floor player might be Tyler Boyd, you know?
Yeah, makes sense. Does make sense. He's the one that might, you look at the Ravens and you might sort of leave to do what they want because you're focusing on T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. So, yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. I'll be honest, next games, not really excited for me, but obviously we'll touch on them. I think we've peaked out there with the Bengals, Ravens. Bears and Bucks, dead rubber for me, but, I know Bucks have got some injuries and the Bears have brought Fields in who's got potential, but what's your thoughts here? What is the interesting is there an interesting matchup? What are you looking
teams
at?
don't run. Teams just don't run on Tampa because you can't. You know what I mean? You just can't run on them.
Yeah.
That defense is so good against the run. But there's a young lad who started last week for the Bears, Herbert. How I was saying to people last week, all the rumours and all the talk around Chicago is just how much they like this lad. And he came in the week before against the Raiders and done a decent job. Yeah. Obviously, he got given the ball a bit more last week, and he had a 100-yard game and he got himself a touchdown as well. As hard as it is to run against this Tampa defense, I would still be starting Herbert if he was in one of your lineups. He's still, if you're watching this game, somebody to watch as an intriguing piece to watch because he's young, because he's a rookie, because they're now using him in the passing game, and also because this Bears backfield is there for the taking for this kid. Montgomery's a middle-of-the-road runner. They haven't really got anything electric in that backfield. And this kid came in the last couple of games and has done well, and it's there for his taking. I don't think he's going to have a big game, but it's still a nice matchup to watch. Yeah. Is this young running back Herbert against this Tampa run D,
Yeah. Bucks, obviously a few injuries, but still outrageous talent. Is this going to be a walkover? I'll have a look at the spread now. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the Bucks are going to just blow them away. I think offensively they've got too much, and I don't really rate the Chicago Bears secondary. It's not what it used to be.
11.5.
Yeah. Oof, that's a large spread though, but I still think, Justin Fields, who's a rookie, albeit a talented one, still finding his feet. Tom Brady, who seems to be just an absolute fucking freak of nature, who's now, 44 and playing football. That's amazing and could quite possibly be the front runner for the MVP. Yeah. That just absolutely blows my mind that at 44 somebody can still be that good. And still be accurate on deep balls and still commanding, like a really good offense and still putting up a lot of points. When we think of like Peyton Manning and Drew Brees at the end of their careers, they were nothing more than a jersey on the field. Yeah. But yet Tom Brady is older than they were and still being excellent. And I'm not a Tom Brady fan, but I am. But I'm not like a super fan. I'm admiring him at this age, just how good he is. AB's out this game. He's injured. He hasn't practiced all week. He's now confirmed as out. Rob Gronkowski's still out with the broken ribs and the punctured lung that he suffered from that. OJ Howard has been questionable all week in training, but I still think they'll have enough here to beat them. I think that both wide receivers, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, will have good games. If I'm starting one of them, I'm looking at Mike Evans. If I'm having a bet on a touchdown scorer, I'm betting Mike Evans as an anytime touchdown scorer. I just don't think the Bears will be able to keep up with them. I'm interested in seeing the Bears' young running back, and I'm interested in watching Mooney. I think this Tampa secondary is a little bit battered up now. They have managed to get Jamel Dean back, but Richard Sherman's out injured now, and they were already depleted with Carlton Davis and Murphy Bunting on IR. So they'll probably have lost Cockrell opposite Jamel Dean. And look, I think players are going to break down. And one thing we know about Justin Fields is he's got a big arm. And we know that Darnell Mooney can get deep and he's fast. And I think there might be a connection there. I don't think, again, a bit like Marquise Brown, he's not going to have a really huge game. But you can take one to the house, and you can catch it. You can catch a 40-yarder or 50-yarder and take it to the house. So
yeah. What
Darnell
is
Mooney-
what's Scotty Miller doing for the Bucks nowadays? Because obviously, before AB signed last season, Brady had a real good connection with him on a deep ball. Is he fourth for the Bucks at the moment? Will he come in for AB, or are they using someone else now?
to be
I've
honest
not
with you,
really seen much.
I'm not too sure. I mean, I can have a look. I can get up Scotty Miller's stats here while we're chatting.
Yeah, just focus on that. I know Brady relied on him last season. There was a lot of it was deep ball central for him, and he was getting touchdowns quite heavily. I'm sure I remember him being a prominent figure. And then obviously he signed AB, and AB started coming in more and more.
He's only had 2 yards. He's only had 2 grabs this year for 11 yards. So look, the thing is, though, like, they've got enough weapons on the field, haven't they, to not be able to move away from Godwin and Evans. And I think that until the Chicago Bears stop one of them two, Brady will just continue to feed them two. And I think both of them will get yardage. I think Leonard Fournette will probably get another good game. He's kind of separated himself as the running back in this backfield. And he kind of started doing that in the playoffs last year, didn't he, when he started getting hot. And he had a really complete performance against the Eagles a few weeks back. Probably his best performance in a Bucks jersey. If I'm backing players here, I'm backing all Tampa players. Backing Godwin, backing Evans, I'm backing Brady, I'm backing Fournette. If I have to take a Bears player, I'm taking Darnell Mooney.
Right. 11.5 the spread. Still think it's...
What's it, 11.5? That's a big spread, that,
.5.
What's it over under, Tom?
Let's have a look.
That's a big spread. I don't normally like backing double-figure spreads.
It's 44, the over-under.
I'll take the over.
Yeah.
I'll take the over. I would stay away from the spread, and I'll take over 44 points. I think the Bears can get 17 points in this. I think they can get 2 touchdowns and a field goal. And then I think the Bucks can put 30 points on this team. So I'm going to take the over. I'll take the over. I'll stay away from the spread. I'll take the over.
I like it. Right, so a real slobber knocker next in Colts and 49ers. There we go. Just a question first. I know you mentioned about Herbert, didn't you, for Bears?
Yeah, I mentioned this before. I did talk about Herbert. I was saying that I think he's got the opportunity here to take a hold of this Bears backfield. Even with Montgomery out, even with Montgomery coming back in, I think Herbert can be the guy. I think Chicago want him to be the guy, and they like him enough to be the guy. But this Tampa run defense is great, brilliant. Nobody can run on them. Nobody's been able to run on them. So whilst I'm going to watch this matchup with Herbert, I think I would probably be... Look, if you've got a better option, you're going to start a better option. But I understand it's like buy-mageddon. There's that many teams on buys this week in fantasy. If you've got him, you might have to start him. It might be a risk. You might be hoping that he falls into the end zone. I don't think he's going to have like an 100-yard game. I'll be surprised if he has a 60-yard game. But look, running backs can get touchdowns, and this kid's talented, and I think he knows that he can have this backfield for himself going on in the season. So he'll be motivated for it. But ultimately, I think this is a game that just is a bad matchup for him.
So we'll move on then. Colts and 49ers. John's almost summed up there that this is a make or break game for both by the looks of it. I don't know. For me, it's just not an interesting game, but I suppose that adds a bit of oomph to it, especially if you're one of the fans of the two franchises. But again, what's key matchups here for you? What are you looking at?
Well, Trey Lance is out. I was reading the injury report, and Trey Lance is listed as out. If I'm looking at the right injury report, John, put a comment in if I'm correct. But I looked at the 49ers injury report today, and it's got Trey Lance, knee injury, out. So, yeah, I mean, that's going to be a bit of a blow for them. Garoppolo is fit to play. Garoppolo is back in, yeah. So Garoppolo is fit to play. Yeah, it's a difficult one because the San Francisco 49ers offense just hasn't really done what I thought it would be. If I'm picking an offensive player for the 49ers, I'm picking the guy who's produced all season. Which you would argue, which is Deebo Samuel.
Yeah.
Deebo Samuel's way ahead of anybody else on receiving yards for this team. Kittle hasn't come back into great form or is being underused. I don't know what's happened with Ayuk. Try pick a running back in this backfield. I think it's probably going to be the rookie Mitchell, who's probably going to get the ball and be carrying the ball. But yeah, it's just the 49ers are so hard because you never know who's going to be running the ball back there each week. With Garoppolo starting, I do fancy Deebo Samuel more this game because Garoppolo wants to go short intermediate, and that's where Deebo Samuel earns his living. Yards after carry, short and intermediate routes, which he's fucking brilliant at.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go Deebo Samuel in this game. There we go. JaMychal Hasty is back. So there's another player who you throw into this running back rotation. It's just so hard to pick one who's going to get the ball. You know what I mean, Tom?
Yeah.
In fantasy, it's a nightmare. In betting, it's a nightmare.
Yeah. It's moving on to the Colts side before we obviously we look at the matchup here. What's happening with the Colts? Why from last season to this season, other than Carson Wentz has gone there? What's going on?
The secondary's playing quite poor. Their defense has regressed a little bit from where it was last year. Last year, it was one of the better defenses in the NFL.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're missing parts on the offensive line. Quentin Nelson's been missing for a while. Taylor, their running back, has took a while to get going, but he had a big game last week. And I think with Kinlaw missing for the 49ers, I do think that that's what they're going to want to do. They're going to want to feed the ball to their running back Taylor, and they're going to want to get him in the game early. They're not going to want to rely on Wentz too much in this game. Although there's nobody really in that San Francisco secondary that would scare me as a quarterback.
Yeah.
I think the Colts have regressed slightly because their defense has regressed slightly. But ultimately, I think they're going to want to run the ball. And they've got players who can run it. They have got players who can run it,
Yeah. The spread on this one's quite small. It's only 4.
Yeah, it's a scary game. I wouldn't fancy anybody on it. If I'm backing anything on this, back Jonathan Taylor, the Colts running back, to get a touchdown.
Okay.
If I'm backing anything on this, I'm backing Jonathan Taylor, the Colts running back, to have a touchdown. If I was having a bet, I would be betting on that. I'd be betting on Deebo Samuel to, I don't know what his receptions is, but I'm thinking he's going to have 8 or 9 grabs this game. So I would be maybe having a little punt on Deebo Samuel to go over 100 yards and a touchdown in this game. T.Y. Hilton.
59.5 is receiving yards.
Who Deebo's is?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going over. I'm backing you over on that all day. I think Deebo can have an 100-yard game, yeah. What is it, 59 yards?
59.5, yeah.
I'm backing you over, Tom. Backing you over on that. Yeah, it's unless you're a fan, you're not going to really be watching it. It doesn't really interest us. I'm not staying to watch this game. No. I think the game will be won or lost on whether the 49ers can get their ground game going, or can the Indianapolis Colts get their ground game going. I think both teams are going to want to run the ball and establish the run. And Jonathan Taylor's a very good running back. Yeah. I do think San Francisco have got enough to beat them. I do think that they've come off, and they'll be a little bit reinvigorated. I'm not too sure that they'll be, and I'm not too sure the fans will be pleased about Jimmy Garoppolo starting. But at this stage, I think he's the safer start,
Yeah. Yeah, you need someone that's. We all say, don't we? Garoppolo's, he's okay, but like you say, with what they've got in front of them, with what he's got around them, you don't want rookie, do you? You need the okay, you need the proven. He's gotten to a Super Bowl before. As much as we all make out it's a running game and stuff like that, he's still got them there. Saints and Seahawks then. So I mean, a bit of a better game to wrap it up. But still nothing that would make me want to stay up 1:15 on Monday, if I'm honest. I think it's a game in 40 the next day on the Game Pass. What's your thoughts here? Is Russ back now, or is he still out? Right, okay.
Still injured. Geno Smith still in. What scares me about this game is I just saw, like, I mean, I'm not a Seahawks fan, but I did watch this game for me mate Jordan, who is, just to try and have a look at it. Plus, I couldn't sleep after the London game. I was too excited. So I ended up watching a bit of this game. And Najee Harris just was getting dump offs everywhere and wasn't really beating them on the ground running, but was beating them on the dump offs and the short passing.
Right.
And of course, the Saints are coming into town this week with Alvin Kamara, you know, who's arguably next to McCaffrey, you know, like is electric out the backfield.
They've got that Harris as well, haven't they? They've got is it that Harris they use as well, similar to that with your screens and your dump offs.
Yeah.
Who's rapid.
So I do think that the Saints short passing game here can absolutely blow the Seahawks' doors wide open. I think that they will rely a lot on Kamara, and this will be a heavy usage game for Kamara. And Geno Smith. Look, he's not a terrible player, but he's a backup in this league, and there's a reason why he's a backup in the league. He's not gonna look. Whilst you've got DK Metcalf in your team, you've got a chance. But the problem is this Saints secondary is very good. Yeah. So if he's gonna have one of his quieter games, it's gonna be against the Saints D, who are going to put Geno Smith under pressure, who are going to be able to shut down passing lanes, who are going to be able to, stop the run, because they're going to want to run Alex Collins as much as they can. I hear Rashard Penny's back as well off IR, which is good because Chris Pearson's now on IR. So, look, if I'm back in this one, I like Callaway for the Saints. You know, like the young wide receiver had a really good game a few weeks back. And I like Alvin Kamara, the running back.
Yeah, 4.5 is the spread. Take Saints 4.5.
Taking that. Taking the Saints to take that. It is a big flight. It's a big cross country flight. You know, from New Orleans to Washington, which is the state where the Seahawks play. Yeah. I mean, it's literally southeast of the country to northwest of the country. You know, it is a good flight. But I imagine the Saints have made that flight in plenty of time. They've probably been in Seattle or the state of Washington for a while now. Look, I think they're going to be fresher. And I think that, they had a bye last week, the Saints, I think. So they're going to be fresh. They're going to be prepared. And I think that they're going to have enough for this depleted Seahawks team who are struggling all over, really, to be honest with you.
Yeah, they are. Okay. Well, that's them covered. We'll move on to our Fantasy 3, see how we get on.
Yeah, I give you mine earlier, and you give me, if you've got yours.
Yeah, so...
well, this is last week, isn't it?
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll look at last week's first. If Bones brings that up, here we go. So, a win for you, Mark. The week I didn't turn up, I didn't get to gloat about my absolute drubbing of you, which will probably be my only this season. But we'll talk about last week. So a win for you, Mark. I tried from Bones. 2-1 to you, Mark. I mean, it wasn't as close as it wasn't as bad as the first week where you absolutely hammered me, but there's still a good 10 points there that you've done me on. Chase was a big difference there. You're right, Bones. So this week I've gone for Kyler Murray versus the Texans. I know we said we won't pick big names, but it's hard when you're picking a QB. It's always going to be one of them, isn't it? I was tempted in Rodgers against Washington, but Murray's Murray. You know what I mean? And playing the Texans, I'd expect to see close to 40 points, if not 40 points on the board there. And then I've gone Cordarrelle Patterson versus the Dolphins. I've got a bit of a love-in for him at the moment. I know you've picked Ridley, haven't you, versus the Dolphins at wide receiver. I think that's going to be a win for the Falcons there. And then I've gone for Devontae Adams, wide receiver versus Washington. I think Washington have been a letdown this season for everyone's sort of pre-season predictions. Defensively, they've been shy, if I'm being honest. I'm hoping he has a big game there. And again, he's one of the huge names of wide receivers, isn't he? He's Rodgers' boy. You'd expect plenty of receptions and a TD at least there. So your 3?
I've went with Matt Stafford. He's going to be playing the Lions. The Lions are playing in LA. They happen to have one of the worst pass defenses in the league, and they're playing their old quarterback. And I don't think he's going to take mercy on them. He's got Cooper Kupp. He's got Van Jefferson. He's got Robert Woods. He's got Higbee. He's got Henderson out the backfield. And I think Matt Stafford is going to have a really big game. And I normally like picking quarterbacks who go against their old team anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So quarterback, I'm going Matt Stafford. Running back, I like the rookie, Chuba Hubbard. He's came in lieu of Christian McCaffrey and has started putting up some really solid weeks. He's a bit of a do-it-all player. He was, like a bit like Mike Davis last year when he went in for McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Chuba Hubbard can catch the ball out the backfield. He gets some targets. He can also run very steady. He's a very high floor start this week. He's playing your Giants, and I think that they're going to be playing with the lead. So I think they're going to be looking to run the ball in the second half to grind down the clock. In that case, I'm going Chuba Hubbard as my running back. And as my wide receiver, I do believe that the Miami Dolphins against the Atlanta Falcons will be a bit of a bad team shootout this week. I think that both defenses are poor. The Dolphins are missing key starters in the secondary. We know that the Falcons defense can't stop anything. So I think it's going to be a bit of a shootout. And therefore, I've gone for the number one wide receiver for the Falcons, who has got a connection with Matt Ryan. I've gone for Calvin Ridley as my wide receiver starter. So I've gone for Stafford, Hubbard, and Calvin Ridley.
I think it's going to be a good matchup this week. I think it's going to be close.
Yeah.
I do think it's going to be close. Try and bring it back to 2-2. So before we go on to wrap up and get a pick from each of the last games, there's a couple of questions that have been put in the group. So we've gone for Chris has asked, with Kittle and Knox both out this week, he needs a tight end. I didn't know Kittle was out, to be fair. His shortlist is Ertz, Mark Andrews, or Azoma. He's thinking Andrews. What's your thoughts there?
I'm thinking Andrews. I think this is a game where the Bengals will be able to put pressure on the Baltimore Ravens. And I do think that Lamar Jackson will be looking for a target he trusts. I think Andrews is getting hot these last few weeks. I've backed him as an anytime touchdown scorer. So I'm telling you, Chris, start Mark Andrews at tight end.
Thank you. Obviously, Kittle, by the looks of that injury report that Bones just put up, isn't out. But would you still start Andrews over Kittle based on?
I would still start Andrews over Kittle. I would still start Andrews over Kittle just because I don't think Kittle's been well used this season so far. He is due a breakout game, and saying that, you'll probably have it this week. He's another one who I am backing for an anytime touchdown scorer though. But yeah, I do think Andrews will have the bigger game.
Ben Bones just put their Kittle's on the IR. That's why he's not on the report. So that.
He is on IR, Kittle. There we go then. Switch Kittle for Andrews on me treble. Mark's Mystic, whatever it is,
Right, so we've got from Ben. Do I risk Julio Jones versus KC replacing one of Marquise Brown, Pittman Jr. or Hardman at Chiefs?
This KC game, obviously the KC defense isn't great, but that offense is brilliant, which means Tannehill's going to have to throw the ball so far. But saying that, there's nothing to say that I would have trusted Julio Jones. He's been injured, he's been banged up, and he looks a shadow of his former self this season. I wouldn't. I would leave Julio Jones on your bench, and I would continue to go with somebody who's hotter. And I would continue to go with Marquise Brown, who's having a really good season this year at wide receiver.
Yeah. And then the last one, I think we know the answer for this, based on the fact that Panthers are playing the Giants. But would you start Field this week thinking he's going to have to throw it versus Tampa, or would you pick up Darnold, who's available in this league by the looks of it?
Ooh, look, Fields is going to have to throw it, but I don't necessarily think that he's going to have a good game against Todd Bowles, who's a very crafty defensive coordinator. Saying that, though, he has got run upside. But seeing that Sam Darnold scored a lot of touchdowns with his legs this year. It's a difficult one, that, because I really want to pick Fields because I'm a fan of his. I just don't think that this is the game for him. So I believe that Darnold would be the safer floor option in that game.
Yeah. Darnold's going to have a lot of the ball versus the Giants, just to add to that. We've got that many injuries on offense. DJ has literally got hardly anything around him. There's going to be a lot of 3 and outs there, without a doubt. It might end up that, like you say, they'll end up running the ball for most of the second half, but still, that might include Darnold.
If I was in that game, if I had Sterling Shepard, I'd be starting him because he's going to see about 20 fucking targets, him.
100%.
Because they've got nobody else. So
Yeah.
I would be starting Sterling Shepard for the Giants if he was available because he's going to see a shitload of targets.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's it for questions. So if we'll go back to the TV fixtures, we'll do Mark's pick of player fantasy-wise per one. So Bengals, Ravens, I think you've already touched on it, but who are we going here?
Mark Andrews,
Bears, Bucks,
Mike Evans,
Colts, 49ers,
Taylor, the running back for the Colts,
and Saints and Seahawks.
Alvin Kamara.
Perfect. Nice little wrap up there. So this show is definitely more interesting than the 4 fixtures that are going to be on this Sunday. So thanks for tuning in. Obviously, we'll be back next week. I believe we're both available, I think, next week, as far as we're aware. Yeah. We'll try and get it on time. We normally aim to start around 12, but I think the latest we'll be starting is 12:30. Get any questions throughout the week, fire them into us. We'll get them, flagged to make sure we pick them up on the next show. Thanks again, Mark. Anything from you before we shoot off?
No, I just want to say, this week, if I was going to be having a bet, definitely bet big on Mark Andrews getting a touchdown. And why don't you not have a look at Deebo Samuel as well for going on that over of 59.5 yards. I'm piling money on that. Piling money on that over. I think he's going to have himself quite a big game. And I'm going to hit Mark Andrews on the anytime touchdown as well.
Perfect. Brilliant. Right. Well, thanks very much, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Bye.